Best coaches in the game, we really ain't playing. We regroup up in the Slack chat where the coaches debrief. We be piecing these puzzles, occupy the chunk of the pie. Ain't no lie when we hit the block, helmet's casket is top. You be seeing helmet after helmet, helmet after helmet. First place, second place, fifth place, 8th place, 12th place, 15, 16, 20. So many helmets, you got blurred vision, we got...
All right. Welcome back to another DFS Army Bold Call Fantasy Football Podcast. Topic today is wide receiver rankings, sleepers, studs, busts, everything you need to know about drafting the wide receiver position. You will get today, mid-June, ready to crush. My name is Kevin Allen, aka The Geek. I am the host. I got my man, the season-long GOAT himself, Alan Seslowsky, a.k.a. Season-Long Sez. What's up, Sez?
How are you, my friend? How are you? We are coming at you live right now on a Tuesday. Normally, we'll do that on Monday, but I'll be honest. Today was one of those days when I woke up and I literally thought it was Monday. Between, when we've quarantined and now I'm on my summer vacation as a middle school teacher, I literally have lost the days of the week at times. So I was shocked when you told me that we were a day late. I was like, no, we're not.
Let me tell you something. You're experiencing that right now. The minute the NFL season ends, I don't know the difference between the weekdays and the weekends. It's all the same to me. So now you're living what I've been living forever. It's all a fucking weekday, a weekend until football comes back. But we're back to talk about the most important and the most difficult position to draft in your season-long draft. We're going to talk about some rankings. We're going to talk about some spots where the ADP numbers are probably off. We're going to talk about some spots where we can get an edge on the competition. But before we do any of that, I need you to do something for me. Like and subscribe to the channel, because the only
YouTube
way,
channel,
the YouTube, the Facebook, your sister's ass, whatever it is, the Pony Express, my man, Dick DiVitetto. Whatever, wherever you're Vic DiVitetto, wherever you're listening, like and subscribe. I'm told that likes and subscribes are very important. But most important, when we go live, you'll be notified of when the show is on the air. You can see it and you can dominate your leagues. Let's jump into the wide receiver position, Season Long Says.
Oh, yeah. No, this is like one of the most interesting years, 2020, for wide receiver in Dynasty, in Redraft, in best ball. And what it is that teams it's the deepest it's gone. This is the furthest down the draft board we go, and we get starting wide receivers. And add that to that the market has gone completely running back crazy, meaning that running backs of lesser ability are getting pushed up the board over wide receivers in the elite tier. And this is one of the best years to get wide receiver value at any point in the draft. I'm loving what, and actually one more point, Geek, is that more and more teams are going to a base wide receiver 3 set versus 15 years ago, 10 years ago, where it was 2 wide receiver sets. That third wide receiver is very relevant for fantasy purposes.
I'm going to throw out some names last year. This is much more than any other position group, where you can pick up somebody very late in your draft that will win you your league. And it's not a stretch. I'll mention A.J. Brown last year. How about Hollywood Brown? Some of these rookies, some guys who came up out of nowhere, Deebo Samuel, that came out of nowhere, put on a good show. You got them very late in your draft, and you ended up winning your league because of them. So it's a very, very important position to understand from the point of view of just who are the studs that are worth getting, because there's busts galore at the wide receiver position as well. And also who are some late rounders that we can tap into that might have some upside potential, especially later in the year, to win us our league. So let's just jump right into this thing, man.
And I also, what's relevant about the wide receivers that we're doing today is we've enlisted the help of our friend over at the Flex Network, Shane Seeley, who's going to be helping us rank some wide receivers. So not only will you get the Geeks wide receiver rankings, not only will you get my wide receiver rankings available in the draft kit, we have enlisted a third party who we think is a very shrewd ranker to add his ranking. So another set of eyeballs to add to the draft kit, and that is being uploaded probably by the weekend.
Yeah, all that. So yeah, all that is part of our DFSArmy.com season-long draft kit, which is available on DFSArmy.com for subscribers. So you go to DFSArmy.com, you sign up, for one of our NFL memberships, and you'll get access to our draft kit, and it will help you draft. And again, we crushed our leagues. We bring the bold calls to the table. That's what this podcast is about. So let's jump right into this.
Talking to the side of that mic, because that peas are popping again. There you go.
Right
into
you,
the
don't
side.
you don't like my popping peas. All right.
There you go. Tilt it back a little. There you go.
See, you're giving me a hard time.
No, you're good. You're good, man.
You're popping my peas.
There we go. All right. Here we go.
Let's jump right into this. Now, the consensus number one pick overall, we're not about picking the number one guy, but I mean, it's pretty obvious. Michael Thomas is above and beyond every other wide receiver in the league from an efficiency standpoint, from a volume standpoint. His team hasn't changed much. They've added Emmanuel Sanders to that team, and I'm actually quite interested in Emmanuel Sanders as a late round pick.
Here's the interesting question about Michael Thomas. Okay, this is the only question that you need to know. We're not going to analyze Michael Thomas. The question is, at what point? He's the only wide receiver that goes in the top 6 picks. So there's everyone in the top 6 picks wants one of the elite running backs, except at some point your mindset as a drafter changes that that's not the guy I want Michael Thomas. So where are you, the geek? Who are the running backs you're taking before you take Michael Thomas?
Okay, so this would be the bold call component of it, right? Where do I take Michael Thomas? Here's what happens. Christian McCaffrey off the board. Saquon Barkley off the board. Ezekiel Elliott off the board. I'm taking Thomas, 4th overall.
Yeah, and I think that's where the money pick is. Now, before Dalvin Cook's holdout threat, that was the decision point. Like that, even threat of holdout by Dalvin Cook is enough to push him down. Now, here's the other thing. I think that in the rankings, we need to now consider Alvin Kamara above Michael Thomas, and I'll tell you why. Not because I think Alvin Kamara is going to outscore Michael Thomas, but I think now with Dalvin Cook in holdout threat and Joe Mixon, a sneaky sort of not talked about holdout threat, that makes that elite tier of running backs even smaller, which is the case for pushing Alvin Kamara up. Now, I would understand if you didn't, but I think now Alvin Kamara gets a bump, and then based on elite running back position scarcity, he can be considered at 4. So I would take Kamara there. You would take Michael Thomas there. I'm not even prepared to tell you you're wrong for doing it.
No, I'm definitely not being convinced about Kamara. I did hear that Kamara was injured a lot last season. We're hearing now that he had some lingering issues going on, and I don't give a fuck. I have seen what Kamara brings to the table, and he just does not bring the volume that Thomas does. I'm sorry. He doesn't. Many passes people say, and he doesn't bring the volume. Michael Thomas, he gets fucking 120 receptions. The guy is unstoppable. He's like a running back consistency level. If you look at his consistency, he was more consistent than any running back last season outside of Christian McCaffrey, and he's a fucking wide receiver.
Well, again, there's no one that's going to dispute that. I think that you're having an argument with the wall there. I think the real argument is
the people want to see me rant, even if it's against nothing.
Yeah, but I think this is we're having a conversation that people are going to have with themselves. So it's good that we're having it. I think the real conversation is, are you going to be happy if you let's say the average person at pick 4, 5, or 6 is going to start their draft with one of each position, one wide receiver and one running back? Are you happier taking Michael Thomas and then that running back that loops around, that Aaron Jones? Or are you happier taking Alvin Kamara and then the Chris Godwin, Tyreek Hill? So that's, again, it's not a question. We know Michael Thomas, if you're just picking one player, is the better player. But what are you going to be left with on the loop?
Always the decision point in fantasy football. Let's push forward, because after Michael Thomas, it gets a little bit sketchy in terms of what current ADP is compared to really where what's worth what. So number 2 overall, we're looking at Davante Adams currently by ADP.
Yeah,
by all measures, consensus, right? By all measures, Davante Adams is great. Packers have not added anybody else, and whenever he's been the only target for the team, no matter what the defense is, no matter what's going on, he will absolutely just get a massive volume of targets. He's a great touchdown catcher. I don't have any problem with Davante Adams 2nd overall. And again, I think more importantly would be, what running backs do I want to take, and when do I actually say, all right, enough is enough, I'm taking Davante Adams. And because Davante Adams for me is a significant step below Michael Thomas, that is where I do want the Kamaras, the Mixons, that second level group of running backs that I'm really interested in. You could even maybe throw Eckler and my boy Kenyon Drizzy in there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a clear tier 2 of wide receivers. So after Michael Thomas, who's in the tier by himself, Davante Adams, Tyreek Hill, DeAndre Hopkins. I'd even throw Julio Jones in there, Chris Godwin. Those are the guys that get sprinkled into the second round. And then you're just going to have to make your own decision on if you want one of those elite wide receivers, or if you want to, stack up on the running backs there. And I think you're going to hear me kind of lead back to this a lot. The reason there's running back inflation this year is because there are such great options that undervalued wide receiver options in the fourth round on guys that we're going to talk about, like Terry McLaurin, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf. Like you're more than happy to roll out as you're in your 3 receiver league. Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, and Terry McLaurin or Deebo Samuel. If you've gone running back heavy, like it really does make sense to go attack those running backs soon. But that begs the question. You're going to hear me say it a lot. Is this the year to stack the wide receivers and go 0 running back?
No.
And I know it sounds ugly. I know you hate that philosophy, but when I say 0 running back, sometimes I'm referring to like a modified version of that, where you get like one running back, like a Nick Chubb at the end, and then you stack those wide receivers. It's as you're going to see as you go through these mock drafts, as you go through the ADP. Terry McLaurin is a 5th round wide receiver, a late 4th round wide receiver that probably should be going on the 2-3 turn.
Let me throw some red flags up. And this is why I don't like that approach. We're gonna run through a lot of names right now, and I'll give you time to react after this. But I'm gonna throw out a lot of names, and then I'm gonna throw a bunch of question marks on them. These are all top 12 guys. So when you're looking at the top 12 group of running, and this is why I don't advocate for 0 RB. Get your RB, get a fucking elite tight end, do something else early. Get Lamar Jackson in the second round. And here I'm gonna tell you why. We go through the top group here. Michael Thomas, Davante Adams, we love these guys, right? But let me throw some red flags up there. DeAndre Hopkins, new team, hasn't practiced with them very much. Going to have a great year, I think. But it's a new situation.
Yeah, no, and you're right. And like these receivers, I'm going to let you continue with this, but if there's one guy that can overcome new team and new situation, like this is the guy that it may not have. Yeah.
I know, but I'm going to throw the red flags on these names. I'm not, I know there's a reason why he's up here. Love DeAndre Hopkins, and he needs a new team finally. But nonetheless, new team, new situation, not much practice with the team. COVID, Rona, the fucking Rona. Okay. How about Julio Jones? He's old as fuck. His hamstring always hurts. The guy is a risk to be injured, or at least a questionable tag every single week of the season.
And again, my counter to that is everything you said is true. But here's the thing. You talk about like this year more than ever, continuity, same offense, same everything is going to be such a big benefit. And who has more continuity and year from year consistency than the Falcons?
Agreed. But these are just red potential flags in the early rounds that say, hey, I'm going to take a running back instead. And I'll take it because part of the second part of this rant will be talking about how great some of the later wide receivers are. But I'm going to continue down the list. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, new quarterback. Everybody thinks Tom Brady is this
in
upgrade
danger.
Tom Brady is not an upgrade from Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston is fantasy fucking gold. And every time he throws a pick six, that just means his team gets the football back to make another drive. And now they're down by more. They have to throw it more. So people are misinterpreting, oh, well, Tom Brady is an upgrade over Jameis Winston. No, he's not.
Maybe for team wins, certainly not for fantasy.
I don't give a fuck about if my team wins. I want my team to lose. I want my quarterback on a losing team where he's throwing a lot. I don't want some winning quarterback on my team throwing it. So Godwin, Evans, danger. Okay. Kenny Galladay literally has not been that much better than Marvin Jones Jr. And I'm just going through the top list, like on a play-for-play basis over the last few years, has not been that much better than Marvin Jones Jr. Very similar. Very similar. Okay. 7th ADP. Amari Cooper, red flags galore. Says every one of these guys, red flags galore. Amari Cooper, who did they just add? CeeDee Lamb?
Yeah, so here you go. Now, Amari Cooper is definitely one of the guys I wanted to talk about because he is, I still think he's a top 10 wide receiver, certainly a top 12 wide receiver, especially for 2020. And he's getting drafted not that. And I understand the reasons why. They added a rookie wide receiver that projects to be very good, but I mean, if we really
of Gallup,
but yes, but they just locked up Amari Cooper for a 4-year deal. 2 of it's guaranteed. Him and I mean, you know how we always talk, we just talked about it a second ago, how when receivers come to new teams, sometimes, well, most of the time there's an adjustment period. There was a very unique connection that we saw that the year that Amari Cooper was traded in the middle of the season to Dallas Cowboys. Like, Amari Cooper went from not producing at all to producing at a super elite level the minute he stepped off the bus. So this might be that exception to the rule. This might be that market inefficiency. And I think Amari Cooper, because you're getting him in the late third round, you're getting him in the early fourth round. If you're going to hammer running back early, I think this is the guy to attack first in the wide receiver market.
I don't mind it, but there are flags with him because he's no longer the only option.
I think they're market perception flags. I don't think they're real, actual, applicable fantasy flags.
That's fair. That's fair. And I do like Amari Cooper, but Amari Cooper also has a long history of not being productive.
But it's priced in now. It's no longer having to take him in the middle of the second round, the early third round. He's now almost a fourth round pick.
I can only compare him to who I can get around him. And, I can make a very strong argument. And this is where I'd come from with it. I can make a really strong argument that Cooper Kupp is a better play and will score more fantasy points this season than Amari Cooper will. I can make a very, very strong argument that even someone like Juju Smith-Schuster or Adam Thielen, guys who are going well past him.
Here now the reason that sorry, Geek. Sorry. And now, yes, you can make that argument, but it's not. When we're talking about probabilities. Again, I could see it, but the reason Cooper Kupp is being knocked down a little bit is that the last month and a half, maybe 2 months of the season, we saw the Rams totally switch philosophies to a tight end heavy philosophy. They drafted a running back. I'm not saying Cooper Kupp's not going to get his. Of course he is. We also saw a season where Robert Woods only had 2 touchdowns. Let's say you even bump him up to 4.5 or 5 touchdowns. I'm not saying that Cooper Kupp is not going to be the 14th best receiver or the 11th best receiver, but he's certainly not going to be the number 1 overall receiver. I can see a situation where Amari Cooper is like a top 2 receiver. It's very possible. It's not likely. It's not priced into his ADP. But I'm just saying is that I think the upside for this season is in Amari Cooper versus the guys you just said. Juju Smith-Schuster, same thing. We know he can be a monster, but that down year without Ben Roethlisberger he was wide receiver. All right, what wide receiver number did Juju finish last year?
He could have been wide receiver 43 or something.
He was wide receiver 63.
Yeah, even worse. And he was terrible.
Yeah.
But my point, the point I wanted to make is that this season more than ever, with a lot of kind of at least red flaggy kind of things around the second and third round wide receivers that are going, makes an argument for, and I'll make the full point here as we talk about some of these names in the second group of wide receivers, but there's a strong argument here for saying, you know what, let me get my running back taken care of. Let me get my tight end in there. That's an elite guy. And, a lot of times in round 3, we're like, okay, I got my running back in round 1. I got a wide receiver round 2, running back in round 3, wide receiver, people talk about the zero running back approach. Hey, first round wide receiver, second. Remember last year, we were talking about hammering Tyreek Hill and Odell Beckham at the turn. That didn't work out that great, but
oh my God, my league in the highest stakes league I'm in, the $350 NFFC overall contest, I went Odell Beckham and Antonio Brown at the 12-13 turn. I got zeros from both.
Disaster. So a disaster. So the argument I'm making overall is I believe that the talent and the value is going to be in the second tier in the WR2, WR3, WR4 area, enough to the point where you can wait at wide receiver, and I'm going to tell you why. So I just mentioned some red flag names. Those are all the top 12 guys. Allen Robinson and DJ Moore currently rounding it out in the current ADPs, and I like both of those guys very much, although I would say DJ Moore has a red flag in the fact that he's got a new quarterback, and we just don't know.
Yeah, but that quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater, man, that plays right into the DJ Moore strengths.
I know it does, but I mean, it's a new quarterback, and he hasn't practiced with the team.
Yeah, that's, again, the theory holds true, and you could be right, but it's just DJ Moore, and you and I have talked about this off air. I mean, this guy we're hesitant to say it, even though we shouldn't be, but he's poised to be in that first round next year. DJ Moore in PPR leagues specifically, I mean, every time he touches the ball, it looks like it looks like a video game. Like when you hit the super jet button. I mean, he gets the ball and he can't tacklers can't grab him. He's elusive. He can break the long ones, and I think this is the year that he actually scores some touchdowns too.
He's on all my dynasty teams. I mean, listen, I love DJ Moore, so let's not go crazy. But the reason I make the argument is, all right, so in the next group, we have these like superhuman new breed wide receivers, a little bit of speculation. A lot of them are young, but that you can get on your team and potentially have these just monsters coming at you. And I'm talking about names like, AJ Brown. I'm talking about names like I'm a negative on Cortland Sutton guy, but DJ Shark and DK Metcalf is in this group. All these great names. Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, Terry McLaurin's the most grossly mispriced of all of them, and I understand why he's going in the 5th round. But I mean, think about it. I don't even want to say this because it's not I probably wouldn't do it, but I think that we're going to be talking about Terry McLaurin having more value in Dynasty over Chris Godwin after this year. I'm just saying it's a real good possibility for the reasons you outlined before. Chris Godwin, I mean, he had an amazing year. He's an amazing talent, but the situation is a little sketchy with Tom Brady, whereas I just think that Terry McLaurin already produced with the worst conditions possible. It's a close call, and he goes 3 rounds later. So he is the best value in those mid rounds that I'm seeing. I don't know if you agree or disagree, but he looks like an NFL star and a future perennial 2nd round fantasy pick.
His whole little ADP zone is really good. So yeah, I love Terry McLaurin. He's the only game in town on his team at the wide receiver position. There's no one else to throw to. And
they drafted some guys.
I don't care. I don't care. He's the only guy to throw to. Kevin Harmon, Steven Simmons Jr. Get out of here. He's the only guy to throw to on that team.
Ooh, wait a second. You just went over my guy. I have an affinity for Steve Sims. I know that he's a late round guy, but I think that he's one of the. I just saw that even Evan Silva, who is one of the most well known personalities in the industry, he just added Steve Sims to his top 150. I've been on Steve Sims train since last year. I mean, if you're listening to this podcast and you like Steve Sims Jr., you know what I'm talking about. You're with me. You've already done this. I'm not telling you a secret, but for those of you who haven't or hearing him for the first time, Steve Sims blew up the last 3 weeks of last year. He was like an undrafted guy or a 7th round draft pick, and now he's going in like the 17th round of best ball drafts. He's on literally 100% of my best ball teams. He has not won the gloss over. He could bust out, but at his price, man, you should be adding him in every league.
Love that as a best ball specific play. Not a guy you're going to be super happy as your number 3 wide receiver. But
no, it's your number 5 or 6 wide receiver.
Yeah. You don't want to start him on your team, but you want him on your best ball team. You don't want to have to make a decision. I got to start this guy this week. You want him on your best ball team. But we know about him because he was a cheap DFS play last year that would blow up.
There's talk around the Redskins beat reporters that Steve Sims was so good last year that, they did draft some guys. So they're the guys they drafted are going to be outside players. But Trey Quinn last year's, he had some hype last year. It may not even make the team because Steve Sims was so good.
Yeah, Trey Quinn. That's right. It was Steve Sims and even Harmon, who was like the more draft equity guy. Harmon.
He's also an outside receiver, Kelvin Harmon, and he's going to his 2nd year, and he was good in a few spots. Like he's locked into a roster spot.
Yeah, no, but I meant like he wasn't the DFS play. The DFS play was Sims, but that we went off on a scrub. But
no, but that's important though. These late round sleep because there's never sleepers anymore. No one has sleepers. That guy is a true sleeper as of June, and he will not be in July.
Well, we could throw out a few of those names for sure, but let's get to the middle zone here because this is really the point I wanted to make. In this middle level of wide receiver 12 to 24, and even up to all the way to 36, but of 12 to 24 in that range. I mean, Terry McLaurin's going 26, wide receiver 26 off the board. Devante Parker could not have had a more spectacular end of the year last year. And as long, they have 2 good potential quarterbacks on the Dolphins. It doesn't matter which way they go. It's Tua, okay. It's Fitzpatrick, okay. Tyler Lockett going very late. You can get names like Tyler Boyd as a WR3 right at the end. So there's a lot of talent here.
Stop the train right there. Where are you at on Parker this year? Are you drafting him where he's going in like the 6th round?
He's a guy that I pretty much have on every team. He's a guy that I like a little bit more than his ADP. I like him more, for example, than Cortland Sutton or Keenan Allen, a couple of names that tend to, and certainly have ADPs ahead of him.
This time last year, like Devante Parker was going in like the 11th and 12th round. Nobody wanted him. He had 4 disappointing years.
All my teams. He was
now, this is the one. Okay, I'm just going to do the other side of it for a second, just to let you know, and because I'm not sure. A lot of his production started coming when Preston Williams went out, because remember, the first few weeks, rookie Preston Williams, undrafted Preston Williams, was actually the guy everybody was talking about. Then he gets hurt. Devante Parker comes in, but Devante Parker, it wasn't just like he had a game here. Like, he was consistent and just, he broke out, the 5th-year breakout, which, by the way, the 5th-year breakout, which usually doesn't happen, gives me a little hope for Corey Davis.
Little hope. Stop with the Corey Davis.
A little hope. It's something
for Corey Davis.
No, not predicting that, by the way. I'm just saying that it gives me, right when I was about to dump Corey Davis in Dynasty, it at least makes me hold on to him because of Devante Parker's 5th-year breakout.
Now, we're in some Dynasty leagues together, and you know that Devante Parker is on all of my teams.
Yeah, no, you've liked him since he was a rookie, and you were wrong every year, and then this year you were finally right.
Same with Kenyon Drake. He's on, like, why do you have fucking Kenyon Drake? I was waiting to be right. Okay. And if I was going to be wrong. So I like Devante Parker, and I agree with you. It wasn't just the guy had 2 good games. It was, oh, wow, this is the Devante Parker that we've been waiting for. This is the Devante Parker that's the number 1 pick. This is a Devante Parker that's not eating potato chips every night and fucking around, but rather giving a shit about football. He's understanding. He's maturing. Now, that could be wrong. Could have been, yeah. Preston Williams on draft free, and I love Preston Williams too. Get him on your best ball team. Get him in your dynasty startup.
You're right over there. I hear a lot of hiccup and burping.
Well, I'm drinking my.
What the hell is going on over there? Talking about eating potato chips and drinking soda.
I drink soda and eat potato chips. All right, let's continue, because again, we're in this group. Marquis Brown, Tyler Boyd, Will Fuller, if he could stay healthy. I mean,
you're just yelling out names. Like, what do you want to talk about any of these guys, or like, what are you doing with
this? Is just the group that I'm saying. Listen, I think we know that. Like, we could talk about Will Fuller, right? There's no more DeAndre Hopkins on his team. He's the only game in town. Cook never been a consistent wide receiver. Brandon Cook. If Will Fuller can stay healthy, is he WR1 material?
Yeah, I mean, you just said the key thing. If Will Fuller could stay healthy, and so far that has not been the case. When Will Fuller's been on the field, he's a difference-making player. He probably would be a early 2nd-round pick. He'd probably be a top 5 or top 6 wide receiver. But because he gets injured every year, that he is now relegated to a 7th-round pick. So you just basically, me just spelling that out is exactly how I play fantasy football. So a lot of players I've heard of like for their 3rd wide receiver to be like a safe, hey, this guy's going to get me 6 catches for 60 yards every week. Cole Beasley, Danny Amendola, that type in their peak. I just want that. I don't play fantasy football like that, Geek. What I like is I like a guy that will get me like 0. I'm putting air quotes up, or win me the week, and Will Fuller fits that profile. Now, I hope he never gets 0. I hope it's like 6-7 points at the floor. But I know that Will Fuller, we've seen him put up 35, 45 fantasy point games where he gets 6 catches for 200 yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns. It happens twice a year. You put that guy in there and he wins you key weeks. Will Fuller, for me, people are fading him. I am especially in best ball. That's a cop out because everyone's better in best ball. But I like Will Fuller. I've been drafting him when I've gone QB early and tight end early. Will Fuller, somebody that I end up with my 2nd wide receiver, and that's a dangerous game for sure. But if you can get him as your 3rd wide receiver, he's someone I'm actively targeting in these drafts. I'm ignoring the injury because it's priced into his ADP. Now, if he was going in the 4th round, 5th round, that's when you have some concerns. But these are the rounds. The 7th round is where you're trying to hit that major home run. Can you think of a better player than Will Fuller to try to hit that home run?
No, new situation, great quarterback. They need someone to throw to on that team. Again, if he learns to stretch out the hammy before the game, you got to stretch it. You got to stretch the hammy out. You're going to be fine. Now, let me throw a couple of names at you. I'll throw one name at you. Some risers, right? A big buzz name this offseason is Deante Johnson, Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver.
Let's start with the simple question. Are you buying it or are you not? Yeah, because that's whoever.
Are you on board with the Deante Johnson hype train?
I am not. And I'll tell you why. So do I think Deante Johnson's a good player? Yes, but I think he belongs in like the 9th round of drafts. He's now drafting in like the 6th round, 7th round. You forget it. You're not going to get him. You're going to have to fight the room for him. And I think Deante, like I said, I think he's a good game, but a good player. But if you think Deante Johnson is a 6th round player, that means that Juju Smith-Schuster also has to be like a 5th or 6th round player, because with Ben Roethlisberger coming back, and if you think Deante Johnson's going to deliver on that ADP, that means Juju can't deliver on his 3rd round ADP. So, and then people are just discarding James Washington like he's nothing. He actually had more yards than Deante last year. All of Ben Roethlisberger in his few games, his big plays were to James Washington. They drafted Chase Claypool, a big pro-ready receiver. They throw to the running backs there. Okay, it's not that again. I don't think that I like Deante Johnson, but I'm not going to fight the room for him. If he falls to the 9th round, he never will. I'll take him. But look at the players that you're foregoing. I mean, that's prime time to get in 1 QB leagues. That's where you take Dak Prescott. You're not going to take Deante Johnson in the 6th round, the early 7th round, when you can get Kyler Murray or Dak Prescott. You just don't do it. I know it's fun to talk about these players, but just that ADP to me, it doesn't seem right. Unless you believe that Deante is ready to overtake Juju, or just be the Godwin Evans thing happen there, where they're both like super productive. If you believe that, then yes, he does belong there. But if you rank Deante Johnson as a late 6th, early 7th round pick, you need to have Juju Smith-Schuster as like a 5th round pick.
I actually do believe that the Steelers can support 2 really good wide receivers.
Me too, but not if you believe Juju Smith-Schuster is a 3rd round pick, that means he's like 1,300 yards and like 9 touchdowns.
Well, let me ask you this. Deante Johnson is going 35 overall, WR 35.
But yeah, let's look since the hype started. I'm going to change that. We were pulling the last month.
Yeah, this is the most recent. 35.
I'm going to do. Yeah,
that's
what I'm going to do
up version.
Right, I'm going to pull the last 2 weeks if you're all right with that. That's like
I'm in the last 2 weeks. He's 35 overall. So my question for you is: the guys who are going after him, who are you taking ahead of him? And I'll just read off the next 5 names: Julian Edelman, no; Marvin Jones, Christian Kirk, Brandon Cooks, Jamison Crowder. I'll keep going. Darius Slayton, Mecole Hardman, CeeDee Lamb, John Brown, Jerry Jeudy, Emmanuel Sanders. So, like, who are you taking of that group before you're taking Deante Johnson?
Okay, I see what you did there, because you're looking at him in the draft order. But if you go back to my earlier point, I said it's not about that I'm considering another wide receiver there. It's that I'm looking where you're having to take him in the middle or late 6th round at this point. I'm looking at other positions. So I'm just looking at overall ADP to see where he is going right now. Deante Johnson, as we look, I'm looking at overall. Sorry, great radio. Let's see. Deante Johnson. Okay, he's going 91st overall. So, he's 91st ranked player. Okay, this is what okay, I'm looking at, like, Will Fuller's going right ahead of him, and then who's going after him, like the running backs. Let's see. Yeah, it's a bunch of like middling running backs, right? Like your Ronald Joneses, your Kerryon Johnsons, and then as far as quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers is in this range. Okay, Alexander Madison is after this range. So I understand Tony Pollard's after this range. So again, it's not an unreasonable wide receiver ADP. I just don't think he's going to deliver on it. And
yeah, but I mean, my point, as you look at this, and as you like, if he, what I would say to your point is, listen, the ADP is where it's at. He's a hyped up name, and your expectation is actually, I believe, that he will climb beyond this WR36 level and actually make his way up to a point where there really are some other better options. But as I look at the draft board, even on your current ADP, again, this is best ball, but it's like, Keyshawn Vaughn, Marvin Jones, okay. James White, Ronald Jones, Kerryon Johnson, fuck that. Jared Cook, okay, I guess.
All right, here you go.
There's no one after him that I'm excited
I pulled up the last draft that I just did. I did a best ball 10, okay? I'm going to read you the 5 or 6 picks that went after Deante Johnson. Is that a good way to do it?
Yeah, that's fair. All right,
okay.
So this is a real-life example.
This is a real draft. This is a 1 tight end, 1 QB league, all right? Evan Ingram, Tyler Higbee, Kyler Murray, Will Fuller, Darius Geis. Those were the next 6 picks.
So that's a situation, and this more speaks to your point. That's a situation where the hype machine is so big on Deante Johnson, and there's a hype machine building around him. That's I think that reaching in the room for guys. That's where you start to take him before this current ADP.
And by
that's the shit you don't want to be messing with.
Yeah, and in this draft, he went at 7.3. So the guys I just read you were the rest of the 7th round, and guys that went in the 8th round after him were Dak Prescott, Jerry Jeudy, Alexander Madison, Russell Wilson. So again, it's not that sure. If you want Deante Johnson and you believe that he is going to be so close with Juju's production and you think he's going to just overtake that team, then do it. Like, we're not stopping you. And Geek believes in it. He thinks that Deante Johnson is ready to take the next step. He showed a lot as a rookie. All these things are true.
My biggest fear with Deante is the same fear I have with every player on the Steelers, and that is that Ben Roethlisberger gets injured every single year now. He can't make it through a season, and the minute he's gone, and the minute you've got whatever garbage they have behind him, and it's not somebody good, they should get fucking Cam Newton on that team.
Absolutely.
But they need Cam Newton on that team. But the minute Roethlisberger is hurt, then he's going to be worthless. That's part of the reason why I haven't drafted Juju Smith-Schuster in the last few years. I'm like, fuck him. I get it. He's a pretty good player, but Roethlisberger, I can't. He's old. He's old. By the way, he's big, and he's always hurt.
Can we add in? You and I talked about this offline before when I was driving around in my car. We both think Eric Ebron has a pulse this year, and if he's a guy that gets 6 or 7 touchdowns, that really takes away. I mean, I know Deante Johnson's not like a red zone guy. He's more of a deep threat. He runs the routes well. And listen, Pittsburgh has done a great job of identifying these type of players, and they got Antonio Brown. They had Mike Wallace. There's a laundry list of guys they did. So it could be. I'm just saying I'm not willing to pay it in redraft. I understand a little bit more in dynasty, but I never like paying for the hype guy. I just don't like it.
I understand. Now let's talk about some later round sleepers that we can get beyond the top 36. Okay, beyond the top 36 that have the potential to at least climb into top 36 level players, and ideally top 12, top 15, win your league type picks very late in the draft. I'm going to throw a few names out of some guys that I've picked out, and I want you to tell me if I'm onto something or not with some of these names. I'm going to try to go a little bit further. Right just outside of the top 36, you've got, I don't really feel like it's a fair call, but like Brandon Cooks and Marvin Jones and Jamison Crowder are 3 names that are just outside of the top 36. Tell me about your thoughts on those 3. Those are all 3 names that I tend to like, and I tend to try to draft if I can.
Yeah, I mean, Brandon Cooks stepped into a really good situation, didn't he? I mean, all those targets it got evacuated with DeAndre Hopkins leaving, and Brandon Cooks walks in, and he's not going to get all 150 targets, but Brandon Cooks is notorious. He's been a 95 target player his whole career. I mean, if he gets 135 targets this year, Will Fuller can't stay healthy. Neither can Brandon Cooks. But that 9th round ADP, man, that 10th round ADP, you know what? I haven't really been thinking about Brandon Cooks so much. He might be someone that we need to target. I think that's a really smart player that you just identified there.
What? Didn't we just talk about Will Fuller's hammy? Dude, the fucking guy don't know how to stretch it. He's gone, this is the only game in town.
But even beyond that, even if Will Fuller's healthy, you almost want Will Fuller healthy. So Brandon Cooks draws the number 2 and number 3 cornerback because that guy could fly. Now, he was a former first-round pick. He's been passed around hot potato-wise, but when he's played, he's been good. I mean, the big problem with him is he's a little delicate when he gets the one hit concussion. That could be the end of it. That can be like career over. But at the 10th round price, I mean, it's all priced in and then some. So I love that pick, Geek. I think that's a great one.
Not a bad situation at all. Now, I'll talk a little bit about Jamison Crowder because he falls more into that category of an unexciting pick, but I think super valuable for your PPR team. Yeah. No one wants Jamison Crowder. It's Jamison Crowder. He's little. He's on the fucking Jets. The Jets suck. I get it. But He's borderline the only game in town. He's certainly the only possession wide receiver on the Jets roster.
That's important to identify. He's not the only game in town because they drafted Denzel Mims, whose profiles is the outside. Right, Bashard Perryman, who could fly, man, he's got wheels. They do pass. I mean, presumably they'll pass to Le'Veon Bell. Hopefully, that's why they brought him in this year. They would give him a little more work.
They will not pass to Le'Veon Bell.
Right,
they won't.
Right. Jamison Crowder, who they paid, he does those things. The only player on that roster that could compete with him in the middle of the field is Chris Herndon, right? And Herndon. I mean, I'm not banking on him to do anything at this point. Like I know there's upside. So yeah, I mean, that's another player that you're getting in the 9th round. Like even if you waited this long to the 7th round to take a receiver and you take Will Fuller, if you like Deante Johnson, Brandon Cooks, like I would roll those guys out of my 2 and 3 wide receiver slots and load up everywhere else.
I have entire teams that win championships where Will Fuller is my number 1 wide receiver. Okay, he's my top guy. Jamison Crowder's in there every single week, putting up 12, putting up 16 points. And you say, well, how the fuck you win a championship? Because when you wait, you've got Christian McCaffrey on that team. You've got Kenyon Drake on that team. You've got George Kittle. You've got Zach Ertz. You've got great talent. You've got Lamar Jackson. You've got elite talent everywhere else. I waited on wide receiver. This is why I say wait on wide receiver. Now, let's keep going. Another name I like a lot. And I want you to tell me about this guy. He's old, like you. And decrepit. That's Emmanuel Sanders. Emmanuel, just Manny being Manny, Sanders, moves to the Saints. The Saints have not had a WR2 on that team for as far back as I can remember. The last time they had what almost could be conceived as a WR2 was when Willie Snizzles, a.k.a. Willie.
I thought you were going to go with. I thought you were going to say Devery Henderson.
No, you're going way too far back. Willie Snead and his beautiful blonde flowing hair was their number 2 wide receiver. Now they bring in Emmanuel Sanders. He's old as fuck. We know this.
Do you know how old he is?
In his late 40s, I assume.
He's 30. He's 33, which is old for a wide receiver. But he's had injuries too. But he's actually, those smaller wide receivers tend to age better. Like the Antonio Brown, like you remember Megatron, Calvin Johnson, and Andre Johnson. Like those guys, when they hit age 30, they literally break down. That's why I'm a little worried about Julio this year. But the Antonio Brown types, the Steve Smith in his peak types, Derek Mason. Remember Derek Mason on Baltimore? Those guys tend to age a little better. So I'm not as worried from an age perception about Emmanuel Sanders. And I'm with you. I think Emmanuel Sanders is like in the perfect situation. But I just, smart people that we know in this industry are out on Emmanuel Sanders. And I don't
listen to quote smart. No, fuck smart people in this industry. Let me tell you something. The only smart people in this industry you need to give a shit about is sitting right here and right over there.
Yeah, okay? No, I'm making a point.
Ranking Lamar Jackson at number 3 or 4 overall last season. They had him at number 16. They wanted you to draft fucking Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson because those were names. They're too scared to tell you about that. They're too scared to fucking raise up Josh Allen to number 5. They're too scared for these takes.
Oh, by the way,
cold calls.
By the way, I think I'm moving Josh Allen up even more. I can't. Yeah, I think I'm going to move him over like to number 3, but we'll talk about that another time.
Now, let me talk about more. Wait,
so, Emmanuel Sanders, stay with it. So what do you expect when you draft? Hold on a second. I want
that he can start on your PPR team every single week as your WR3, deliver reasonable numbers, and allow you to have waited until the 10th round to have drafted your 2nd or 3rd wide receiver on your team, or your 4th or whatever.
All right, finish this sentence for me. Okay, I'm going to say a sentence. I want you to fill it in. Don't even think about it. Emmanuel Sanders, if he plays 16 games, will finish as wide receiver blank.
26.
Okay, so the highest end wide receiver 3 you can basically be.
Really, a wide receiver 2, bottom end wide receiver 2.
Well, that would be at 24. That'd be wide receiver. Yeah, we're talking about 12.
That range. So give me him in that range. Now, the more important thing is if you look where he's being drafted, he's being taken after Mecole Hardman. He's being taken after John Brown and Jerry Jeudy. In the range with Mike Williams and Sterling Shepard and Henry Ruggs. I'll take Manny Sanders over all those guys. because he's an established guy, again, on a team that throws the football a lot, that is dying for a WR2. And trust me, they're dying for a WR2 on that team.
Well, okay, here's the other little sneaky thing. And again, I want you to understand, I'm with you on this. Like, I'm drafting Emmanuel Sanders. But here's the thing. So normally, you would say, oh my God, clearly, like, he's the WR2 on this team. There hasn't been one. He's a very capable one. He was, like a hair away from catching the winning touchdown from Jimmy G in the Super Bowl. But the number 2 pass catcher, the guy who's going to have the second most receptions on this team, is not going to be Emmanuel Sanders. It's going to be Alvin Kamara, who's had 80+ receptions in 3 straight years. So wait, hold up. So what I'm saying is, I wouldn't go into this expecting Emmanuel Sanders to have 80 catches, 800 yards, and like 7 touchdowns. I think Emmanuel Sanders is going to be useful. I think he's going to have his big games, but I think he is being drafted appropriately, because I can't see a situation where he gets more than like 60, 65 catches for like, 750, 800 yards and like 5 or 6 touchdowns. So very useful. And he could go on a little roll there, but I just think that the reason he's pushed down is because of that thought process.
If Sanders was younger, he'd be Amari Cooper.
Sure. Why not?
Sanders is a guy that on previous teams with the 49ers even had 40-point games. Like, all of a sudden, he just goes crazy. It reminds me very much of Amari Cooper. And then they just don't throw to him for 3 weeks. So if he gets the volume, he will produce. Can't ever guarantee volume.
Let me ask you another question, because this is, because we have a lot of what I'm finding is in the Slack chat, we have a lot of Dynasty League players too. If you are a top 3 team in your Dynasty League, like you're a real contender, top 4 team, right? You made it to the semis last year, you lost, whatever. And you are just that second flex position, that wide receiver 3 position, just is biting in the ass. Would you give away your second round pick to get Emmanuel Sanders?
Not in a million years.
Oh, wow. So you don't like him that much.
No.
You said,
no.
You're late. You're pick 2.10.
What do I think he's going to get me? And in Dynasty, all right, let's say I say his high end is a decent to very good. This is the peak upside is a decent to pretty good WR3 for my. I'll give my fucking second round.
Wait a second. You said a minute ago that he's a nice wide receiver too.
WR2, peak WR3. That's his ceiling. I'm not saying I definitely think he's going to get there. I think that's his ceiling this year if they use him right. The problem is he's old as fuck, and in Dynasty I have a long-term out view.
Yeah, but I'm talking. That's why I specifically said
because the guy selling me him is dying to sell him. So I'm not going to be worked over by that owner, knowing that he is desperate to sell. I'll offer him my late end of the third, because I'm winning this fucking league. I'll offer him my end of the third round pick.
How about this? Okay, I'm going to give you another.
Take it because there's nothing else to do.
I'm going to give you another hypothetical. Let's say you're like I said, you're saying you're just that one spot keeps killing you, and you have 3 seconds round picks. So would you give him that last second round pick for Emmanuel Sanders?
Because I can work him over. I don't care about the value. You see, this is a problem that you have. You want to talk about. All right, let's get into psychology. Just because I think he's worth that doesn't mean I'm going to pay that, because I know that the other guy, negotiation is about understanding my side and the other side. The person trying to sell me Emmanuel Sanders has no recourse. He's dying to sell Emmanuel Sanders. Why? His team fucking sucks. He's trying to tank anyway. Manny Sanders is old. He's probably got 1 or 2 seasons in him, if that. So I have all the negotiating power in the world. I say, all right, I'll throw you a third rounder for him, and you should thank me for it. And he says, fuck you, I want a second. Okay, go out and get a second.
Well, in our Dynasty League, I was able to get that second rounder for him. I sold him. My team is one of the bottom half teams. I sold him to the league champion, and I ended up with 2.12 in this year's draft. So then by your account, you think I did good?
That was a perfectly good. Now that's the end of the second. That's a very good trade. Yes,
I got 2.12.
Yeah, I support that, and I think it was a great trade. All right, let's move on to some other players. Again, what are you tuning in for? We want to find the late round picks that can win you your league. So N'Keal Harry is his ADP. He is the WR60 right now, the 60th wide receiver being taken after Sammy Watkins. I'm pretty sure Sammy Watkins said he was going to retire at one point. After Sammy Watkins. Now, that's make an argument for me about N'Keal Harry. Is he overvalued, undervalued, or properly valued at WR60, last pick in your draft?
Yeah, well, that ADP, I don't know where you're getting that from.
That's
That's
on your site, my man. This is it. Best ball 10.
Yeah, your dates must be whacked out or something like that. I don't know.
Hold on.
Yeah,
Let's see.
just because N'Keal Harry. Okay, so you're not that far off. So let me back up a little bit. One of my favorite strategies in drafting in regular redraft best ball is to get a good even amount of shares of sophomore wide receivers who disappointed the year before. Like that's a strategy that works because some of them will just had a reason why they didn't do well. Rookie receivers in general don't always perform. There's always those exceptions, and it's becoming a little bit more of the norm. The Deebo Samuels, AJ Browns, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, they all did great. But the guys that went higher than that, I mean, think about this. New England passed on all those guys that just named for N'Keal Harry. He's got first-round draft pedigree. Okay, so I just got him in a best ball in the 15th round. So your points, you're not that far off from what you were saying. You know,
dude, I'm just on that site, man.
And
that is correct. Yeah,
you're not wrong because it was me that took him in the 15th round. So maybe I jumped up and skipped ADP. But yeah, I mean, it's clear and obvious at his price that he's the guy that could bust out of all these sophomore guys. First round draft pedigree. He's the only game in town. I think Tom Brady leaving is a plus for him. Tom Brady, as we know, if he doesn't trust you, he's not throwing you the football. And how is he going to trust a rookie wide receiver? Whereas Jarrett Stidham, who is projected to be the quarterback, was doing those, had those backup reps with N'Keal Harry. N'Keal Harry was banged up a little bit last year. He's one of the prime candidates of, and put every sophomore that didn't produce with high draft pedigree in this category. N'Keal Harry leading the way. I'm happy to take a chance on him as my wide receiver 4 in any draft. I would not be surprised at this time next year. You're naming really good ones today. If we're talking about N'Keal Harry, is like a 5th round receiver in the same way we're thinking about like DK Metcalf this year. So could not work.
I'm so excited about the wide receiver position this year for this reason, because here we are diving deep in the 60s. I'm going to throw another name at you. We already mentioned him, but we're diving into the WR60, WR55 level. And you saw some of the drafts that you and I have done together already. I've employed this approach in those drafts where I'm like, I don't need these fucking top 12 guys. I'm going to do other studs because I love the wide receiver position as we go deep into these weeds. I'm going to throw a name at you that we just mentioned. Preston Williams.
Sure. If he's healthy, he's good. I mean, he had an ACL a few weeks into the season. As we know, ACL sometimes are even more than a year injury, and it won't even be a full year. So I love him for Dynasty. I'm a little more dubious. I loved what I saw, and I think if he was healthy, he'd be going in like the 6th or 7th round around Will Fuller. But less than a year recovered from ACL, I think it's problematic. But if you take him where he's going in the 13th round, it's an easy cut. Could be your first cut. So if you're drafting today, first of all, you're a maniac if you're drafting today for your redraft league. If you're drafting in best ball, it's a different story. So yeah, and I love the pick, but are you not scared off by the ACL?
Not at wide receiver 53 pricing. That's the point. The point isn't I'm not drafting this guy. I'm drafting him instead of like taking a fucking kicker. Like, we're not talking about investing your draft capital in him, but the upside is what you said earlier. What if he's the guy who emerges as the number 1 wide receiver? What if Devante Parker finds his way back to his injury issues that he's had in the past? We don't know. So the guy wants to get late.
Yeah, great pick so far. I like these. So now here's another one that's going to be polarizing, meaning that like I thought for sure when draft season started, this is a player that you and I were totally out on last year, and it's AJ Green. But the price, he's interesting because he has yet to sign his tender, but let's assume for a minute he's going to sign his franchise tag, so he's going to be on a 1-year deal. Sat out all of last year with a preseason injury. You and I were mystified that people were taking him in the 5th round. We know his injury history.
Happy they were taking him.
Yep. No, it was one of
the Bald Calls podcast.
It was one of those guys that, like, like there's always those players in your draft, like when they get drafted ahead of your turn, you're like, thank God, okay, that's one more guy that's going to fall down. He was that guy last year. This year it's Jarvis Landry for us. We could talk about him in a minute. But AJ Green this year in his like late 6th round ADP in Dynasty, and he's going in the 9th round. I've been getting him, and I've been able to get him as my wide receiver 2 when I'm like going with the onesie positions early, and I'm able to get him as my wide receiver 3 or 4 when I'm doing a traditional running back wide receiver approach. I think that Joe Burrow is like, he's going to be a pro ready quarterback. It could go sideways on him, but AJ Green, wrong. He looks like a guy who like is going to be demanding targets. I think they're going to force feed him. AJ Green is an excellent Hall of Fame level receiver when healthy. And again, you're not having to pay that healthy price for him. I'm just going to look in the last, it's anecdotal. It's one draft, but the last draft that I did, which is it's ongoing now, we're in the like 16th round. AJ Green went in the end of the 6th round.
Who's in the range?
Okay, great question. So you're having to decide between Deebo Samuel, Marquis Brown, and Michael Gallup in that range. So, it's, I probably...
By the way, that's exactly where his ADP is. So, these are people who are sharp and clearly drafting based on ADP as well in that league.
Yeah. I mean, I understand why you would pass for any of those guys. I do like all those receivers, but AJ Green is one of the guys that I'm not like all in on, but I have been scooping him up in a couple leagues because when he plays, man, I mean, he's like, he's a 1st round wide receiver. So if you have the stomach for it, if you like taking a few gambles and you're in multiple leagues, I would be sure to at least pick up one AJ Green. I really like him as a player this year, obviously injury risk aside.
I'm absolutely a fan of Green. What's worse about him? This is a guy who was a top 5 wide receiver, a top 6 wide receiver draft pick like 2 years ago, sat out last year, and now all of a sudden he's WR30. The fuck? What changed? Is he a little older? Sure, but he's come back from that injury.
So I really like AJ Green where you can get him. It's basically a stud for cheap. On the N'Keal Harry tip, let's talk about a couple other
sophomores.
Yeah, the sophomore group from
I mean, the sophomores that disappointed, it's like it's a tried and true story, strategy. Literally, if you can collect these guys in your draft and one of them is going to pan out. You can collect Andy Isabella, JJ Arcega-Whiteside, Paris Campbell, N'Keal Harry. You can get them all, and one will work out.
Not even going to say that you just literally spilled them all out. We don't know which one of those guys.
I have no idea which one it's going to be.
Which one will be good? I mean,
Paris Campbell, man,
one of the highest picks. N'Keal Harry, one of the top picks in your rookie draft last year. Arcega-Whiteside really, I think, is the scariest of the group.
Of that group,
but I do agree. I think these are guys you can compile very late, and I love stashing guys like that. I love guys like this in my best ball league again because I can get them super late.
One of dynasty too. You can always get those guys you can give up your 2nd rounder for any of those guys and probably get the deal done.
Like for your 3rd rounder.
Well, you're trying to squeeze.
Get him for a 3rd.
I'm just saying is that you could pick 2.5, 2.6, wherever you're picking, right in the middle round, if you're stuck in the middle, and literally put your cash on the table and get Paris Campbell. Harry, it's going to be a little bit tougher. I think that the people are onto him a little bit more, but it probably could get done. And what I'm saying is that is the receiver really that you get in the 2nd round of your dynasty draft, the late 2nd round, is he probably has less of a chance than those guys that have a year experience. Now,
let me ask you right now, player for player, Denzel Mims or N'Keal Harry?
You mean just straight up, like for redraft or for dynasty?
You're in your dynasty league. I'm making the offer. I got Mims. Give me N'Keal Harry for him. It's yours.
I'd rather have Harry. I mean, I liked, just he's a 1st round pedigree guy. I think that matters. I don't think that, I could say that with utmost confidence. He already has a year of NFL experience.
Mims
that matters. It's Mims, by the way.
Mims or Campbell?
Again, I think it's the same situation. I probably would go Campbell, but if a Denzel Mims guy had like a hard stance on it, like Denzel Mims had the opposite thing that those guys have. Like, he went later than you. So one thing that's really important, by the way, is, yeah, sure, watching tape is good, studying the metrics is great, but the order in which these guys get drafted and where they get drafted actually correlates to how they produce in the NFL more so than not. Not 100%, but it is correlate. So
I'm only mentioning Mims because you said 2.5, 2.6.
And that's who goes there.
Right?
I'd rather have the last year's, the sophomores.
Well, if you want a first rounder, I'll give you the same question: Brandon Ayuk or N'Keal Harry. The offer's on the table.
Yeah, I mean, that's 50-50. I'd probably go Ayuk there because of the team and the offense. But if you put Harry, yeah, I think Harry's probably the bet. I mean, it's 50-50. It really is.
This is really close stuff. You almost hate to be offered that because, like, I don't want to make that decision. It's too
right.
It'll hurt me too much if I make the wrong call. I just stay with what I got. All right, let me throw out a player name, and I would like you to talk about him. He, definitely a guy you've been on for a while, and that's Tony Miller from the Bears.
Anthony Miller.
Now, you've been talking about Anthony Miller for really since he's been a rookie, and he kind of had a breakout late last year, had a bunch of really good games. What is your outlook for him? And is he one of these late round sort of gems that I can grab late and really feel confident in putting in my flex/WR3 spot in my PPR league and get some production?
Yeah, sneakily, Anthony Miller in his rookie year 2 years ago had 7 touchdowns. I mean, and then he's had shoulder problems a couple years in a row. So now I'm starting to get concerned now as a talent, as a route runner. I mean, he's unbelievable as a route runner. Now, the quarterback play is a problem there too. So I think Anthony Miller is a popular sleeper among early drafters. I mean, no one's rushing up he's not going to get the helium that Deante Johnson got, but he has just as much upside. So there you go. I think we just kind of work this out on the air right now, that I don't see the difference between Deante Johnson and Anthony Miller, but I do see a 4-round discount. So I think that if you think Deante Johnson is good, has a chance to overtake Juju Smith-Schuster, outplay James Washington, and just kind of push to the side the rookie Chase Claypool, then you have to love Anthony Miller with just Allen Robinson kind of being the only other guy there. Anthony Miller's the number 2. The quarterback situation will presumably be good, and I'll tell you what I mean by that is that if Mitch Trubisky isn't good, they're going to go to Nick Foles to stabilize. Now, if Trubisky's good, then he's good. So, right. So then we're going to at least have, I would say slightly stabilized production there. So yeah, I like Anthony Miller. I think I'm not willing to overpay for him, but I think that you've correctly identified him as a player we could be talking about as that finishes as like wide receiver 22 on the year, and he's getting drafted in like the 40s or 50s.
Definitely don't need to fight the room no one's fighting you in the room for Anthony Miller, though. He's available. All right, let me jump on to the final topic for the day.
All good ones, by the way, so far. All the players you picked, I think these are good.
I'm waiting for like a graphic to pop up for this one. It's not going to happen.
Well, maybe when I do the cut-ups, it will.
There we go. The final topic for the day. Rookie wide receivers. Should I draft one? And if so, who? And if who, when? Yeah,
I think that last part is the key because I see Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb going in like the 7th round, so I'm out. I mean, not that they're not awesome, and Jerry Jeudy to me is you've seen the stuff on Twitter with his route running. I mean, he is going to be so good. It's just that we're not convinced on Drew Lock. We like Drew Lock. I like Drew Lock, but that with the competition of targets, I just think it's very risky in the 7th round. So who are the wide receivers that I like at ADP? Is that really?
Forget ADP. Let's throw ADP out the window for a minute. Which of these wide receivers? It's very difficult. We have a lot of roadblocks ahead of the wide receiver group for year one. Number one, again, training camp, fucking weird. Rona, they're at home doing Zoom meetings. It's fucking bullshit. You can't learn football on Zoom.
I'll answer your question then. There's 2 wide receivers that I think have the best chance to produce in year one. and it's clear to me. And they're at a price that's like 11th round or later, and that's Jalen Reagor on the Philadelphia Eagles. There's a lot of wide receivers in the wide receiver room, but there's not a lot that do what he does. Yes, Deshaun Jackson does a little bit what he does, but he played one game and got hurt last year. I'm not sure. Deshaun Jackson's like Ted Ginn Jr. at this time. He's really good for the football team, and he doesn't. And he's great for your fantasy team. For your fantasy team in a sense like this, where he doesn't get a lot of targets, but he demands a lot of the attention. So I think Jalen Reagor, it's wide open for him. I'm not saying he's going to finish in the top 20 wide receivers, but I think he can certainly finish in the top 36 and have some big games for you. So I could see a game where Jalen Reagor gets 5 or 6 catches for 80 yards and gets in the end zone. I could see him doing that pretty regularly. And the other, do you agree on Reagor?
Yeah, I mean, Reagor is basically it's weird to say he's the only game in town they have. Jackson, they still have Alshon Jeffrey on the team. He's still on the team.
I'm totally discarding Jeffrey. I'm totally sorry. But they do have J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who we just talked about.
Because I can't even find Alshon Jeffrey. Arcega-White. But all right, so we got Jalen Reagor.
And the other player who I think has a chance to produce in year one, and that's Justin Jackson. I mean, the Minnesota Vikings, they traded away Stephon Diggs for a first-round pick. They're left with Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen's great, but they're going to need somebody on the other side. I said Justin Jackson. I meant Justin Jefferson. Sorry, everybody. Justin Jefferson, and he's going to be on the opposite side. He came from a pro-ready offense at LSU. He's used to playing with a super accurate quarterback that could do it all in Joe Burrow, and now he gets Kirk Cousins, who I think when he gets protection is a really good quarterback. It's he's in that old school pocket passer frame, and Justin Jefferson can do a lot of good things on the football field. Talk about college production. Justin Jefferson, he could do it all. Short passes, he can go long. I think that's a guy that's undervalued in dynasty startups. I'm happy to take him right after Judy and Lamb, and I think in year one he could be someone that is just does the Terry McLaurin on us, surprises us all. I
like the pick very much. On the same note, I very much like Adam Thielen. We didn't talk about him. He's one of my favorite, WR2s this year because with Diggs out of the way, I think he's going to just have a glorious year.
Any rookies for you, man?
Yeah, I'm going to throw a couple of my rookies out there. I like both the guys that you mentioned. So right off the bat, I very much like those guys. I'm going to add into the mix. First of all, I'm not trying to be cheese balls here, but I do think that Jerry Jeudy, in his situation with Denver, is in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, I agree.
They need him. They need him on that team. I don't like Courtland Sutton. I will warn you, do not draft Courtland Sutton. He is fool's gold. He's going way too high. He has not shown this.
He's dropping though.
You know what? Just because I talked about that shit and I've been telling people fucking.
No, you were on it early. You were pushing away early, but he's no longer like a late third, early fourth. Now he's going like in the 6th round now. So it's more palatable.
Rightfully so. Courtland Sutton earlier in the season was like WR14, or he was way up there. Big mistake. He has not shown anything. Jerry Jeudy should be able to take over on that team. So I like Jeudy a lot. I'm not down with CeeDee Lamb here. Not down with him. Not
this year. Not at ADP.
But I do like a couple of other names. One being Henry Ruggs. I think the Raiders are going to have to find a way to use this guy. They don't really have a lot going on at wide receiver on that team. Point taken last season, they were like all about throwing to the tight end because they had really no one who could take a short pass and run with it. So I like Henry Ruggs. I think he could be productive this year.
Staying with wide receivers and on the Raiders, because I think Ruggs is a great pick by you. But let me ask you this. So, another popular name is second-year Renfrow. We both love Ruggs, you and I, and we both like Brian Edwards. Tyrell Williams isn't going away. They have a tight end, Darren Waller, that catches a lot of passes. Where is the production going to come for Renfrow?
Renfro's dead for me. He's done.
Right. He's again even at his 12th round ADP, he's being overdrafted, right? I mean, that's
Hunter Renfrow did not have the athleticism. He was
he was good last year. That's what I'm saying. People are taking him because he was good.
Because they had nothing else going on. This is the same thing that fooled people into thinking Tyrell Williams was going to be a high quality wide receiver coming off of the Chargers, when it turned out he just came off of a year when they had nothing else going on at wide receiver.
No, so hold for a second. But you talked about Renfrow not having the athleticism, and Agree. Like he didn't, but could he just be like one of those guys that's good at playing football? Like going back to his last year of college, he caught that winning touchdown from Deshaun Watson to win the national championship. Like, could he end up being one of those guys that's like, just has like this sick first step or good hand action, able to shed receivers? Again, I don't think so, but
I hate the unathletic. And then of course, all of my comparisons, this is going to be fucked up, but all of my comparisons are like undersized white dudes. Like, I'm like, could he be a Wayne Corbett? Like, all that's going through my head is, Wayne Corbett was like that. And then I'm like, oh, Danny Woodhead, and it's like, oh, Julian Edelman's kind of that way. And it's like, then I'm like, what the fuck? How come I can't, like, why does my head go to that? Because he's like an unathletic, undersized dude, and that's who makes it in the NFL. Like, is an who just
I don't think that, like, I think that's an apt.
Where my head goes.
I think that's a it's a normal mindset to have. Like, hey, this short white guy does this, so let's compare him to other short white guys. Like, I get it. Like, it's not like a crazy thing to say.
My head goes there. I wish it didn't.
I know, because of all of the what's going on in society, in the world, it's your sense to say it. But we're talking football right here. We're not talking about like race or society or social issues. Like, I get why you said that. And there's good comparison because he doesn't have that same athleticism. So I think it's an apt comparison, but I'm just not sure. Like, I see why people are drafting Hunter Renfrow at that spot, but I just think that it got, and then also they headed Lynn Bowden, who they're calling him a running back. But he was drafted as a wide receiver, and in college, he was like an awesome wide receiver at Kentucky. Like that's what I'm saying. Like, he is going to be on the field doing those things too. I think he just does everything Hunter Renfrow does better. I just don't see where it's going to come from.
I'm not on the Hunter Renfrow train.
Yeah, but I'm saying a lot of people are. So that's why I was asking where you were at.
These are chasers of last year's production. These are not people who are forward thinkers. They don't make bold calls. Those motherfuckers make old calls. We make bold calls. They make old calls. Now, let me ask you one last name.
And then we'll wrap.
And then we'll wrap it up there. But wait, mark the time when I said we make bold calls, they make old calls, because that was totally unplanned. I was just very impressed with
that was good.
And the rhymingness of it. Now, Michael Pittman, he's going to the Colts. T.Y. Hilton, little oft injured.
But they don't do this. They don't do the same things. T.Y. Hilton is a low target, deep threat. And Paris
the Dante Moncrief role that Moncrief could never fulfill.
Yeah. Paris Campbell projects as like the underneath guy playing the Keenan Allen role for Phillip Rivers. Michael Pittman is like remember the Colts had 2 second-round picks. They chose to take Pittman before they took Jonathan Taylor. Like, they valued the wide receiver more than they valued what everyone thought was one of the best running back prospects of the last couple of years, Jonathan Taylor. So, yeah, I mean, I've been talking to you about Pittman since before the draft even happened. I thought that, I was saying to you, I said, the Jets should not take Jerry Jeudy in the first round of the real NFL draft because they can get Pittman.
They want to get Pittman. Then Pittman went like,
and then his hype, Then the hype kept going, and Pittman's like, again, he profiles as a pro ready. He was a catch machine at USC. He has NFL blood. His father played in the NFL. He's been around NFL football his whole life. He's by all reports like a good team guy. He does everything well. I think that he looks to me like he has a lot of Michael Thomas to his game. So I think I forgot about him for redraft because I'm so used to talking about him in a dynasty forum. Michael Pittman, man, I mean, that could be instant juice to your game right there. That's a really good pick too. I got to start adding him to my redraft teams.
Now, again, not super excited. I like a lot of these guys a little bit more longer term. And I do think that the rookie wide receivers in all kind of calmness.
It's an uphill battle.
They're Zoom meetings. All right. They're taking fucking Zoom meetings. They haven't even met the team yet. Right. And it's mid-June.
But that's why I like some of the senior guys, the guys that have been playing for 4 years, like Michael Pittman, who's a little bit older than the typical 20. Jerry Jeudy, the 20-year-old rookies, 21-year-old rookies, I get it. But the guys that are like 23, that have a little more maturity, that have that extra year of experience, I'm not as concerned about. And Pittman falls into that category.
Perfect. All right, let's wrap it up there. That covers the wide receiver position. Obviously, you'll get much more in-depth rankings, picks. We're trying to keep you off the busts. We're trying to keep you on the people going too low or too high. Get off of those guys. We want to get on top of the guys who are going a little bit too low. We want to beat the field. So obviously, you want to.
So just say it's like, who's one guy here? How about this? This is a good way. This is a good ending to the podcast. Tell the people one player that they need to come away with in every wide receiver. They need to come away with in every single one of their drafts.
All right, you go first with that one because I need a second to think about it.
Sure. So I think that if you are going to subscribe, and we see in the chat here, the live chat, I see a couple of guys saying this is the year for running backs. All right. So if you're going with that, and a lot of people are, they're just attacking these running backs early, I think that you need to get Amari Cooper on your team as your wide receiver 1. So anytime he's available, usually in the 4th round, maybe the late 3rd. So you're going to have a chance to get him. If you go running back, you will have a shot of Cooper in the 3rd. I think that's the wide receiver you should not leave your draft without if you go running back early.
All right.
I'm not going to, that guy, he's a little bit higher up the board. I'm going to give you a guy that I end up with on all of my teams. And I wind up with him, and that's Devante Parker. He's on every team that I've drafted. He's ranked just a little bit lower than where I think he should go. And so he always winds up, I'm making decisions. It's Keenan Allen, it's Cortland Sutton, it's Tyler Lockett. I'm like, no, I want Devante Parker above those guys. So that's a name that I will have on pretty much all of my teams. This year.
And the guy that the last round, how about a last round guy, like the last 4 rounds guy that you're not leaving without? Like, who's the guy you're most owned through best ball? Who's that guy?
That I was hoping, and that's going to be for me.
It's going to be N'Keal Harry. He's going way too late. He is, as far as I'm concerned, the WR1 for his team. I don't think that Julian Edelman will make it through this year healthy. I don't think it even matters. He's a Tom Brady creation. So I like N'Keal Harry. I think he's got upside. I think he's going to be the wide receiver 1 for a team that won't be able to run it as much as they could when they had all the efficiency at the quarterback position.
I really like N'Keal Harry to
have a breakout year. What about you?
Yeah, that's a great pick. Even going a few rounds later, I mentioned it earlier in the podcast, but literally I've done 30 best balls, give or take, with drafts, everything. Steven Sims is on every single one of those teams except for like 2.
Super late pick.
I love it. All right, let's wrap it up, guys. A reminder, wherever you're listening to this, make sure you subscribe. We will be back next week with more Bold Call fantasy football action. We've gotten through all of the position groups at this point. In terms of our rankings, the DFS Army draft kit will be completed within the week. And
within 2 weeks. July 4th is the official launch.
Yeah, July 4th is the official launch. Independence Day. #America. So we will be complete. You have to sign up as a DFSArmy.com VIP or Core 4. We're opening up a new subscription level just for people who are interested in core sports. So we'll have that by the time July 4th runs around. You just have to be an NFL subscriber. You'll get that. You can chat with Sez and myself and all of our team in our Slack chat as well. We have a very active season-long forum. Some of you guys, and listen, God bless you. Some of you guys will just have fucking Sez on like speed dial. Like, dude, I'm on pick 3. Who should I take? And Sez is over here like, dude, take this guy. Like, that is the level of one-on-one.
And that's why we've just hired, or we've brought in another guy. I'm recruiting a staff to help me. I brought in my guy Shane, that's going to be in the Slack chat helping me out too. Hopefully,
Shane will be that too. Shane from the Flex Network. Shane, who has donated so much money to me in various football leagues that I almost feel like I owe him like a spot here on the roster. Give you some of your money back. I get it.
Shane loves fantasy football as much as you and I do, so he'll be a great addition to the coaching staff in the Slack chat.
And Cameron low-owned WR there as well. He's doing articles for us. So
great articles.
Season long, but not just that. Obviously, we do everything at DFS Army. But the number one thing I want you to do, like and subscribe to the channel. Let us know that you're out there. Make sure you smash the like button to subscribe. When you subscribe, when we go live, there's a little notification comes up like, hey, these guys have gone live. You could check out this broadcast. In season, you'll get waiver wire pickups. There's so much stuff going on. You'll get start-sit stuff. So it's really, really important to like and subscribe to the channel if you want to get all that. Podbean, Stitcher, Snitcher, Apple phone, iTunes. I don't even know.
And I talked to our guy behind the scenes, and what he's going to do is he's going to make sure that our podcast appears in Spotify as soon as possible. So we'll be there very shortly. We thought it was there already.
I knew it. All right. We'll be on Spotify as well. We're going to be everywhere. So like and subscribe so you get these. And if you want to go to DFS Army and get signed up as a VIP,
The VIP pricing right now, it's about to change. The VIP pricing covers every single DFS sport and season-long sport in existence. It's $49.99. And when you use promo code SAYS, and that's my boy over here's promo code, you're supporting him. You're keeping him employed. If you like his content, you got to use his code. I'm not even giving you mine. You get 20% off, so you get that membership for $39.99. Listen to me carefully. That membership is going up to $79.99 in a couple of weeks when other sports come back. So we figured out that covering, quite honestly, NASCAR and esports and Korean baseball and all these crazy leagues, it's too much for one main subscription. So we're breaking those out. Right now, it's all included VIP. Prices never change at DFSARMY.com. So when you get signed up and you lock in a number, that's a reason to lock it in now. You get signed up now, you get all the season long, you get every sport covered. And trust me when I tell you, our MMA alone is worth $39.99 a month. If we did nothing else, our NASCAR alone is worth $39.99 a month. If we did nothing else, you get it all. So it's a really awesome deal. And that number is going up massively. So please do it now. And don't complain to me in fucking August when you're like, hey, what did the fucking price go up? Yeah, that's right. We covered, I had to hire. You got staff covering every single sport. It's a lot of shit to do. So if you want to get those niche sports, now's the time. If not, you do a Core 4 membership, get your basketball, baseball, football, the regular sports. We hope they all come back. NFL will be back. All right. Said all my piece. I am the Geek. I got my man for season long says here. We'll be back next week with more bold calls. We will help you win your leagues. We are not.
Next week I think next week we'll talk some ADP risers, some NFL news, possibly some sleepers. We'll come up with a good angle for you guys, something useful and actionable for your off-season drafts.
You're not going to get ESPN takes here, guys. You're not going to get generic bullshit here. You're going to get bold calls, players to stay away from, names that everybody is touting that we say stay the fuck away from. And you see it every year. We do this early in the season. By the time the season rolls around, it's like, oh, everything you said already happened. The ADP rose. You'll get that info early because we're on top of it year-round fantasy football. Thanks for watching. For Sez and myself, good luck this season.